Hey everyone, Kuro the artist here. Isn't it wild that we all just collectively started to treat Kai like she was the worst thing to happen to Ben 10? I'm not shifting any blame here either. I'm certainly guilty of peddling that narrative too. But I mean, we all thought we had a good reason for that, right? I mean, this had to have come from somewhere. She's allegedly Ben's one true love that he's destined to be with in the future, to such an extreme that their future kid comes back in time and ruins one of Ben's dates to ensure that Kai Green is indeed the only girl for Ben.
Because I'm from the future, where the two of you are together.
Sealing Ben's fate is perhaps the biggest misstep the show takes if they were trying to win you over on Kai's side. Despite all the time travel we've seen, Ben's future still being an open book is part of the fun and allows your imagination to run wild. But anchoring that down with the new Kai plotline means none of that matters anymore. You know that Ben's gonna make it through every obstacle, he's going to marry Kai, and they're going to have Kenny. There's no mystery left. His future's set in stone. Well, that's up for debate too, but let's save that discussion for later. So Kai being destined to marry Ben isn't great, but her character could make up for it. Until you realize that most of her screen time is spent arguing with Ben, leaving little to no room to actually develop some chemistry between the two. We're more of just told that they're supposed to be a perfect fit rather than seeing it ourselves. So their destined relationship seems very unjustified.
You don't believe in fate, do you?
Nope.
Kai was painted to be an argumentative, boastful, and all-around unnecessary addition to Omniverse's later seasons, which rubbed so many fans the wrong way that to this day you can't even bring her up without at least one person expressing their hate for her.
Dude, I've known her since I was 10. Girl is a pain.
It all had us desperately asking, what the hell were the writers thinking? Well, I'm here to figure that out. So from this point forward, I'm going to do my best to play devil's advocate. I'm challenging myself to defend Kai as much as possible and always try to find a way to be in her corner.
Shouldn't you be a little, I don't know, nicer to Kai?
I mean, somebody has to, right? Her reputation's been through enough in this community, and I think it's high time we give her a second chance. I still don't like the idea of Ben's future being sealed, but is it really fair for her to receive all the flack because of this? Are we allowing that perception of her to weigh her down so significantly, or is she truly that bad of a character? Well, spoiler alert, at least for this episode, I think she has a lot of redeeming qualities, and I honestly had a ton of fun with this story. I know the real issues come in the later episodes, but I think they did a solid job setting her up here. And if we put the torches down for just a moment, perhaps we could appreciate where the writers were going with this relationship. And in the spirit of supplying a new wave of support for Kai, you can now use promo code BENKAI for 25% off of everything in our merch store, including the new designs such as Kevin and a melting Kuro skull. The code only lasts until May 31st, so grab it while you can. So let's take a deep dive into Kai's reintroduction into Omniverse. But first, if this is your first breakdown and you're curious about how my rating system works, there's a detailed description down below along with a link to all my previous breakdowns, but by all means watch this one first, I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. On March 8th, 2014, An American Beowulf in London first premiered on Cartoon Network, written by David McDermott. The Forever Knights are after an alien super strength serum that will allow them to pull Excalibur from the stone, providing them invulnerability against all future alien threats. When Kai's grandfather, Wes Green, is kidnapped by the Knights, she risks calling in an old favor from her childhood crush, Ben Tennyson. I swear, I don't always try to pause right on the first frame, but a lot of episodes have really cool stuff happening in the first frame. They got these water reflections for them, which they had to animate separately. They couldn't just flip the top animation to the angle. And there's also an out of focus fade. Like the further it gets away, the more out of focus and the more transparent they become. Plus the water trails in which they're walking and splashing. Real good stuff.
How can you be sure it's even real?
Robert Louis Stevenson's clues were unmistakable.
And the unexpected return of Kai and Wes Green. These two characters also retain the same voice actors from the classic series. I really dig their updated designs. Wes's floral is another way to play into his relationship with Max, much like Vera will later get a floral pattern. And Kai's more tactical outfit suits her more action proactive nature in Omniverse. Her jacket is pretty cool too. And I love that her bang doesn't flip with her face. It's always on the right side of her face no matter which way she's changing. He also mentions Robert Louis Stevenson.
Robert Louis Stevenson's clues were unmistakable.
An author from the 1800s, most relevantly to this episode of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the story of a man with two different personalities. How much of an expectation this episode relies on you knowing the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, especially just with a Robert Louis Stevenson name drop. I don't recall whether or not they did a good job at explaining it. I know what that story is, but would everybody who's watching this just know that? Is that fair to expect of them?
And lead right to
It's a really cool brick animation.
Dr. Jekyll's secret laboratory.
I feel like it's still a famous enough story for folks to know what it is, but the further time goes on and the more generations that come up, the less association we have with what might be familiar to the writers of the episode versus the target audience. I remember growing up, there's a lot of shows that would have references to things that I would have no idea what the hell they're talking about, but it would be written in a way as if it should be obvious.
Legendary formula.
But they establish Robert Louis Stevenson's an author of the story of Dr. Jekyll and has a legendary formula. So even if you don't know it's an actual book from real life, I think that's enough information for you to get what this is. You could just assume it's a fictional book inside of Ben 10 and still get by.
Belongs to us.
Of course they're there coincidentally.
Thank you for recovering our formula.
So unfortunately, Tim Curry was going through some health issues at the time of this episode and was not able to reprise his role as Joseph Chadwick. Here he is voiced by David Kaye.
That my beam machine will erase all alien DNA on Earth.
If there are no further interruptions, I should like to go claim Excalibur and rule the world.
Who I'd say is pretty successful. Maybe it's because Joseph doesn't show up enough for you to really tell there's a change. Either way, it works. Excellent job, David.
The good Dr. Jekyll was one of our order.
The third time we're getting folklore tied to the Forever Knights. First being the story of Old George, then the Dagon, and those two plot lines were intertweaved, obviously, and now Dr. Jekyll. So there's a lot of real-world history tied to the Knights, just as much there's real-world history tied to the Plumbers, which we'll get to much later.
Crafting alien blood super strength serums in battle.
I'm actually surprised they tied the formula to Alien. One of the biggest complaints of the UAF era was everything being alien, and Omniverse was sort of course-correcting it. So them actually being like, yeah, you know, it was aliens. It's kind of seems like a UAF move. But honestly, you know, I applaud Omniverse still not being afraid to just say, hey, you know, sometimes it's just fucking aliens. Did he know that was gonna happen? Run! Oh, there goes her jacket. Morton's still holding onto it the whole time.
One vial. Bring the old man to the castle. Expertise to recover the sword.
He means the sword of Excalibur. So yeah, lots of external lore being tied to the Knights here. This is a good detail, her contact picture being, I assume, 10-year-old Ben. You know, 11 and 10-year-old Ben have the same model. So not just for the audience, but for the characters, it's been a long time since Kai and Ben have seen each other. Wes Green is being heckled when he's after Dr. Jekyll Ben 10.
You didn't have to come with me. Still have a childhood crush on Kai Green. She thought you were a werewolf.
Pretty good recap. That does the job, but God, Ben, right over that, you already know Rook's gonna be the one that has to clean that up.
I am excited to finally experience a different area of Earth.
Did you know that
the average annual precipitation in London is only 23 inches? The average annual rainfall in New York City.
It's cool to see Rook be passionate about something again. He was very passionate about Ben, but now that he works with him, he just doesn't care anymore, so his extending his old fascination of Ben to Earth in general gives him something more to care about.
I hope English people make more sense in English than you do.
Excellent backgrounds as usual. Whenever they do real world locations, there's always the expectation for how accurate they are versus Bellwood, which is fictional and can look like anything. And this right here is pretty spot on. This is where the Elizabeth Tower is, but they also have the bridge and the surrounding buildings all seem fairly accurate. Hey, we haven't seen this transform properly in a bit. Although with this transformation, the front of the ship gets covered with the borders of the front of the truck rather than morphing into the front of the truck. But the proto truck has been destroyed quite a few times. Perhaps every time they rebuild it, its mechanics change too. And this is a great joke too.
Thanks for coming. I didn't know who else to call for help.
So far optimistic. I know they're known for bickering and fighting, but she needed help, she called, and she's happy to see him.
Oh, you're so taller.
You're taller too, you goof. It's been 6 years.
I gotta say, this brief interaction, I'm liking it. But yeah, this confirms it has been 6 whole years. But she definitely didn't have that phone 6 years ago, which means she stored Ben's number and gave it a custom contact picture on the chance that she would ever have to reach out to him.
House pet.
You had furry ears and a curly tail and never mind.
Reasonable.
I have to rescue my grandpa.
We have to rescue your grandpa.
Oh, here it comes.
Pleasure to meet.
I just called you for backup.
Hey, that was a good cutoff. I've roasted the audio mixing for having terrible characters cutting another character off pacing before, but that one was pretty good.
Backup? Save the universe more times than I can count.
Aw, Ben, it's fine. You can be backup. There's no pride involved here.
The official count is 3.
Now, he is saying universe, so what would you assume those 3 instances are? I'm going to say Secret of the Omnitrix, because if the watch blew up, then it would have destroyed the universe. Maybe the hybrid, but that was more of like a galaxy thing than a whole universe sort of thing. I guess Agrigor, that could be the second if Agrigor won, with the powers of a celestial sapien, that would have been a whole thing. And then the Dagon invasion, that definitely has to be it, because he was after the whole dimension. I think those are the 3. What do y'all think the list is of the 3 times Ben saved the whole universe?
Ben Tennyson is nobody's backup.
Okay, let's play both sides here. I feel like Ben wasn't intentionally coming off as brash when he said, we gotta save your grandpa. So Kai snapping at him does seem a bit unprompted, but she could also just be riled up from bringing up the whole Blitzwolfer thing like a second ago. But Ben's kind of have taken it way too far by emphasizing, no, I'm nobody's sidekick. Like, this goes on much longer than it needs to. Not as a fault to the episode, but as a fault to Ben's character. Like, he could have just let this go.
You were in Dr. Jekyll's lab? It's just a story.
All right, yeah, there's enough lines there to bring people up to speed. I'm just saying, I'm not sure we should just expect people to know that's a real story. If anything, it's a fictional story in Ben 10.
That's the boy with the magic watch that turns him into aliens.
It's not magic, it's science.
Good point, though. Whenever characters in Ben 10 doubt the existence of something, it's just a big eye roll. Like, come on. You've seen so much. Everything exists.
The knights were taking my grandpa to a castle to help them get a sword.
Take a considerable amount of time to...
Guys!
See, that cutoff was poor paced.
Considerable amount of time to...
Guys!
Yeah, see, let me just...
Take a considerable amount of time to...
Guys!
It just takes, just slide it.
I already know where he is. One of the knights dropped this.
I would call that a coincidence, but I drop stuff all the time, so I get it. I feel like I've pointed this out in so many videos, but we're on the episode, so I'm obligated to. You know, Howl's castle moving in storage, Howl's moving castle, there's the TARDIS from Doctor Who. Side tangent, is anybody else watching the Shutigawa Doctor Who right now? At the time I'm recording this, we just had The Well, Series 2, Episode 3 drop. I'm liking it so far.
No one is here.
Even in England, everyone's ordering Chinese food.
Somebody was here.
Nice detective work, Sherlock.
That is quite a compliment, Ben.
Oh, Rook. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Sherlock Holmes was real in Ben 10 too.
New Omnitrix?
Careful.
She's interested.
You couldn't even change into Benwolf if you wanted to.
It is cool hearing that he was canonically called Benwolf at least at one point. Y'all know me, I was never a fan of what's about to happen, but here we go.
I don't call him Benwolf. His name is,
And the TV is just magically on right now.
Blitzwolfer.
You just made that up, Blitzwolfer?
So this joke doesn't work for me for a lot of reasons that, now that we're in a breakdown, I can really get into. For one, they don't ever actually say Wolf Blitzer. There's no subtitle, no character says the name Wolf Blitzer. So this is asking a lot for people to get this joke that he's saying Blitzwolfer instead of Wolf Blitzer. So there's no dialogue or text to indicate that this is Wolf Blitzer, and that's where the name comes from. Okay, so what else could they do? Maybe you could just somehow, in your child demographic perspective, recognize that this is supposed to be Wolf Blitzer. Well, that's our second threshold. This doesn't look anything like him. Wolf Blitzer looks nothing like this. He's got more of an upside down teardrop shaped head. He's a lot more lanky. This guy's buff. He's got a pompadour and everything. And there is a reason for that because they didn't even try to make him look like Wolf Blitzer. Turns out this is a recolor of a background character used previously that was actually based on storyboard artist Tanner Johnson, who clearly looks nothing like Wolf Blitzer. And with the amount of effort they put into character designs, and you're trying to sell a whole alien name scheme joke or whatever after this, you couldn't even draw your own Wolf Blitzer on the off chance that a child is somehow going to get this joke without knowing who the fuck Wolf Blitzer is. And on top of all of that, Blitzwolfer is such a bad name. I know there's people out there that like it, and I'm not trying to offend you, but there's just, I can't like it. It's just, it's so dumb for the context, for the sound of an alien name. Snarrow and Frankenstrike replacing Ben Mummy and Ben Victor, I get that, but Ben Wolf really worked for me. I think they should have kept it. Fuck this scene.
Blitzwolfer.
And even in character, okay, I'm not done. Even in character, do you really think Ben here himself is gonna know CNN broadcaster Wolf Blitzer enough to make this joke? And if Wolf Blitzer's an American journalist, why is he broadcasting in London? London has their own CNN with their own newscasters. It's just, God, I'm sorry. I don't get how people can think this is a good idea. I don't get it. I don't get it.
If I may interrupt your courting banter,
No,
that is
just
so
no.
not.
But Rooksy is right through it all and does see the little subtext of flirting right there. So far, I'm not getting the grounds that this is justified for a Kai hate train, but we are only 5 minutes into her first episode, so still too early to make that judgment call.
This is my grandpa's handwriting.
A diagram of
Ooh, lighting.
the statues in Parliament Square.
If you notice, the text on the picture only show up when Ben flashes his Omnitrix light on it. And with here, it's revealing the passageway.
Each statue represents a different London landmark, corresponding with the Royal Greenwich Observatory.
Is that real? Oh yeah, it is. Cool.
That statue was not installed until 1899.
That's right. There was a different statue of Cromwell in another part of the square.
So what she lacks in powers and abilities, Kai makes up for with education and historical knowledge. I think that makes her more interesting than just like another action girl, you know? I think it's more interesting for Ben to have a relationship with somebody that adds extra elements to their dynamic rather than paralleling him. But like Julie, for example, she was very far removed from Ben's world, so I think that's why she's probably the most favored love appearance. And while Kai does kick ass and she is involved in badass adventures, she still has a lot of extra stuff to bring to the table.
Be leading the knights to the wrong place on purpose. Sword they're looking for. It's that important. Grandpa West says,
That was a good cutoff.
once a plumber, always a plumber.
I forgot that Wes is a plumber.
He can take care of himself.
That does seem a little contradictory, though. At the start of the episode, she was so worried about her grandfather being captured that she ended up calling in a favor from Ben, who she hasn't spoken to in 6 years. But now all of a sudden, she's like, he'll be fine. Maybe it's because now she realized that Wes tricked the knights, and now she feels more comfortable with the situation. But so far, all they ever did was investigate this warehouse. She could have done this and then called Ben, and perhaps even realized she didn't need Ben. So she jumped the gun pretty hard calling in Ben, because it seems like she can handle all of this herself.
Across the square.
Another fantastic background. All of the leaves, the vines growing over the tombs and the graves. Look at this piano right here. And the hills, the walkway. It's a crying shame we never got a Ben 10 Omniverse art book or something.
Many famous Earthlings are buried here in Highgate Cemetery.
Oh, it is another real world location. I can't seem to find the exact location where this is, at least with a brief Google search, maybe if I really hunted for it. But so far they got the right vibes. Oh wait, no, hold on. I found the piano. This is definitely the piano they're basing this off of. But the surrounding area looks different, so I don't think this specific shot is based on anything in particular, but there's a lot of elements within it that are the same.
Many famous Earthlings are buried here. Michael Faraday,
English chemist who studied electromagnetism.
Karl Marx,
The German philosopher who wrote the Communist Manifesto.
Douglas Adams,
An author whose most famous work is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Hitchhiker has a couple of references spread throughout Ben 10.
The secret lies twixt hall and wall.
Doctor Who Weeping Angel cameo.
Bartleby Hall,
I can't find anything on him except for a character from Arthur.
Eunice Wall.
Yeah, nothing on her either.
This is it!
That must have been tricky to animate as she's spreading open a texture, and there's even a feather fade over it. I get that was for suspense, but there's no way we wouldn't have heard Ben transform.
Just these two things.
That was sick. The knight jumps off of it as it's flying towards him. But again, knowing it's a robot, it does make it slightly less cool. And hey, there's details on the swords that I've never noticed before. I always thought it was just a glowing red sword. This always stuck out to me as one of Rook's best fights. He rarely gets to fight people as skilled in swordsmanship as he is.
Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like.
He's even got the knight running, it's a friggin' robot. Even AI fears the blade of Rook Blanco.
Wow!
I taught him a bunch of stuff.
I mean, he did, but not that.
It's over! I'll save these!
See, she's not prideful enough to want to be part of the battle. She knows she's outmatched and wants to prioritize the goal of getting those equipment out of there. And she's trusting Ben to handle the fight. Boink. Okay, she's got some moves. Kind of crazy putting an armored person in an armbar, though.
Girlfriend fights better than you do.
Not true, but Morn's just getting in his head.
Hey! Stay your hand!
You know, the show doesn't do this often enough for it to not be weird every time they do it. But I like the split panel stuff.
If you value his life.
Wooden cuffs?
The Oculata.
So much for him being able to handle himself, huh?
The sword they're searching for.
The Sword of Sigurd. Beowulf. Arthur.
So many references this episode. Maybe I should have saved the reference topic for this one.
Anyone who wielded it was unstoppable.
Excalibur!
So we got the jagged lines here for everything splitting up, but here they're very straight and smooth. I think they alternate whenever they do this.
That's just another story.
Come on, Ben, keep up.
With Excalibur, no alien will dare set foot on Earth ever again.
It's interesting they think that sword is that powerful. All right, so if they wielded the sword during the incursion invasion, do you think they had a chance? There we go. This is what I'm talking about. Night-themed equipment. This is much better than the little flying red snowmobiles from UAF.
Those were pretty slick moves back there.
It's called judo at the mall.
So she can fight. Mall martial arts is not going to be optimal, but it's something. Ben learned most of his moves from video games.
Where are we going anyway?
The Oculata were devised.
Love how he just jumps into it like he was like begging for somebody to ask him that question. Ben's just asking a question for small talk and Chadwick's like, oh, well, I'll tell you all about it.
So, where are we going anyway?
The Oculata were devised.
So much enthusiasm.
Placed atop the 2 towers of Westminster Palace.
That's probably real too, right? Oh, that's literally the building next to Elizabeth Tower.
Night of a full moon.
It's always a full moon.
Lain dormant since last used to defeat Napoleon.
Napoleon, another history reference. Also, of course, it has to be a full moon, because God forbid they end up drawing a new one.
The Red Knight and I will escort Mr. Tennyson.
And there we get our first verbal confirmation that his name is Red Knight.
He's not my boyfriend!
Not yet.
Where's Elizabeth Tower?
Big Ben.
Really great drawing. Looks like it's a little after 2, though.
Giant clock. Actually, great bell inside the...
That cutoff was alright, but wow, so many examples of the cutoffs here. And it's usually always towards Rook. Kai keeps cutting off Rook. I can see that being a little irritating.
I was correcting Ben.
Okay then.
I mean, say what you want. Ben acts like this all the time, so if anything, he's met his match. That is pretty cool. Just before 9, hold on, that's not what the clock said. This clock clearly says 2 a.m. Wait, does the clock not work? No, it works, all right. Is that just the art asset then? What time did it say at the beginning of the episode? Nope, it is different here, so they do draw the clock differently. Here, this is about 7:45-ish. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, wow, that's a great shot. But would have been nice if it did match.
You've got to fly down there and get to the sword. There's going to be a distraction in exactly 10 seconds.
1,
When it happens,
2,
you've got to fly down there and
3,
get to the sword first.
4,
A distraction?
5,
What kind
6. 6 seconds.
What are you waiting for?
Me anything that can fly.
Okay, so this is definitely the Omnitrix's AI fucking with Ben. This is way too big of a coincidence. This is another putting on the onesie transformation. Not my favorite. Interesting we see a shadow in the rushing background though. Probably because it fades into the real world and they just needed the shadow attached to that asset.
Blitzwolfer?
He's really committed to calling him Blitzwolfer. But this is his first appearance in Omniverse, now voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. Kevin gives him a much more stuffed up, snouty kind of voice, play into the canine wolf aspect of him. He looks alright, but I'm still more of a fan of the classic Blitzwolfer. I loved the weird two-claw shape. I loved the rubbery, skin-tight look to his fur. I liked when he was more wolf-like than a straight-up wolf. Wow, first time being Blitzwolfer in a long time, and he starts suffering. If it's that big of a deal, Ben, if only there was a way you could... We're just gonna pretend that that's not an option anymore. Only when it's funny, right? Not when it matters. How many bongs was that though? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's like 9 o'clock. All right, that does line up with Kai's phone. 9 bongs, 9 o'clock. So it's just the artwork that's incorrect. Cool. He bounces it back.
What's this tech called again, son?
A proto tool.
Ooh, a new function for a proto tool. That's a rarity this far into the series. Little zip line. I love that.
I sure wish they were invented when I was a plumber.
When you were a plumber. Come on, Wes. You know what you say.
Once a plumber, always a plumber.
Well, that was...
Close.
Round 2. Ooh. I always loved this scene here, where he grabs onto the clock using his foot. Clock's different this time, though. This looks like about 10:30. Oh yeah, this part here, him swinging around the clock, using his feet to grab on.
Good boy!
So that's written to be antagonistic, but so many people would kill for that treatment nowadays. They embrace each other when he's not in alien form. There's moments there. And again, this is coming from somebody who started off as a big Kai hater too, but I'm trying to see things differently this time around.
Young love.
Damn, Rook, what happened? They knew they couldn't write a scene where Rook gets bested, so it had to happen off screen. I wouldn't buy it. And another return of the laser lancers. Hell yeah, continuity.
What say we continue our little adventure together?
Yeah, Kay's doing a great job.
Doorway is sealed, sire.
So I couldn't have gotten in anyway.
Goop, Big Chill, Ghost Freak. Come on, Ben.
You didn't even try.
I mean, she's right. He can quick change now. He didn't have to sit there and suffer as Blitzwolfer.
Who was busy saving your life?
Which is also a good counterpoint. Kai did fall, so if Ben wasn't there, you know, it's just they both have sides to this. The smartest thing would be cycle through to get Stinkfly or Jet Ray or something, grab Kai, and then fly to the rock.
Whatever happened to Good Boy?
Oh, see, now Ben misses it.
I am busy trying to become invincible here.
Did he say? It's a sick-ass class ring you got there.
I have 100% confidence that Ben will never allow Excalibur.
Wow, Rook believes in Ben that hard. That's a really good change.
The sword in the stone?
Shing. It's like it heard you.
Only one who is worthy can remove it.
Now I know we're about to see Ben try, but like, what if he really tried? Like, what if he used Armadillo to shatter the rock? Or again, used Ghost Freak. Ghost Freak can make other objects intangible. Or even Way Big. Like, you know, Way Big could... Unless it's magically enchanted, like it's not just about the physical rock, which could be true. Let's find out.
Who has a super strength serum?
90% sure.
That's a cool transformation, though. Kind of simple, but enough.
I assume my rightful place.
Oh, he sounds like Michael Dorn doing his Victor voice.
Not merely as king of the Forever Night. I assume my rightful place.
Take care of the boy. I don't want anything to interfere with our plans.
But that begs the question, if Tim Curry was around to be able to record this episode, would he have done the monster voice too? I would have loved to hear Tim Curry's version of this voice.
King Tyre!
So what makes Excalibur so special? It seems like it's just because it's iconic and the legacies that came with, but the sword itself doesn't seem to have any special properties. Yeah, I think it's just a sword. There's some variations where it does have some mythical abilities, but I think it's just like more of a durability sort of thing or a longevity thing. I don't know.
Transform and remove the sword from a stone.
Oh, so now you need an alien's help to expunge all aliens, huh? How ironic.
It's asking for my help?
The sword!
Drama king.
Love that Ben's not letting Joseph get to him. I love how he goes up to Humongosaur. This is used a lot of the times to like prove that Humongosaur is stronger than Four Arms. If you really want to get into the feats of it, not this time. Grow, Ben. Grow. This is a pretty good fake out though, that you do see him lifting it, but he ends up just lifting up the rock. But then yeah, just like take the sword and crumble the rock.
Stale in the stone. Destroy them!
Yeah, Rook. Oh my god, look at him go! Hell yeah.
Something you do not know about. Holding it backwards.
Is that the last we see of the Red Knight? Yeah, it is. I think that's it for him. He's officially gone. In fact, this is the last episode of the Forever Knights period. I've given them a lot of shit over the years, but I'm gonna miss them. What a way to go.
No one leaves.
God, this freaking gear back here must have been tricky to animate. I'm surprised they didn't make this CG. Grow.
Master Green! What you want to do is...
What I've been watching you do all night.
Ah, he's perceptive. Oh, look at him go. See, that was properly set up too. Wes has been watching him the whole episode, and they did have that comment on the zip line. Very small, but still good storytelling.
It makes me not want to go easy on you anymore.
He ain't holding back. Oh man, I was expecting him to give him the full Greg treatment with that line, but he's still getting his shit rocked. And he can switch the weapons.
Did it just?
Good moment too. They don't linger on it too long. It's just enough to make you go, oh, look at that. But then they move on, and it's a setup for what they pay off in the future.
Fluid pressure equals force over area.
None of us will make it out of here alive. Can't keep wasting our time fighting.
Wes talking them down is good too. There's not a lot you can do with Wes, but they're doing enough. I think they're making great use of him as a supporting character.
Temporary truce.
And it worked.
I think I found a way out of here.
She's good.
She really is. She gets so much hate. I do think in a later episode or two, they do play up the bickering too much. I have to believe there was justification. We were all on her ass so hard, like back in the day. But at least based on this episode, I'm not getting that here. She's a pretty great character this episode. Not just as a hero, but as a character.
We just need some leverage.
Use this instead.
Great little detail of the water slurping up when they lift it out of the water.
Well, this is unexpected.
Can you imagine if they all became plumbers after this episode too?
Brooke, your new king?
Just force of habit. Success!
Proto Tool probably could have did that with his laser.
Enemy shall we be?
Oh, a moment ago I was your king.
That's very Ben of him to say.
Everybody out!
Ben! We found an escape hatch!
Time to go. I am the most powerful forever king of all time.
More than George? More than Driscoll? Hell, even more than Urian? Get out of here, Joseph.
I hope Kai didn't see that either.
He cares.
Didn't see what?
The knights are
Lushed someplace way worse.
Ah, come on, Ben. Just allow yourself to enjoy it. See, he finds her funny. She's joking around. He's digging her chili. Fucking damn it.
Thank you for your help.
It was an honor, sir.
It sucks we don't get much more Wes after this. I think he gets like one cameo later, but they really made me like Wes here. I'd be happy if he showed up more.
It was great seeing Blitzwolfer.
That's pretty respectful too. She's setting aside her own interests to respect Ben's stupid name change right there.
Kinda nice to see you again too, Ben.
Girls are weird.
You just gotta know how to play the game, Ben. I think they finally figured out how to make it look really good. Oh, that goes nowhere. So I came out of this feeling a lot better about this episode than I used to. Now walk with me here. For all those against Kai, please put your bias aside and hear me out. I really do think this episode deserves a 5 in plot. As a very interesting premise bringing to life the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story, as well as Excalibur, which falls into the Forever Knights playing into real world mythological lore and whatnot. Bringing back Kai and Wes was a risky move, but I think they pull it off. I like the narrative between Rook and Wes. I liked Ben and Kai trying to get over their feelings as kids and reestablish who they are together as people in the present day. I think the Jekyll formula being alien blood was neat. Going to London as a change of scenery was actually more interesting than alien planets. Like, Omniverse always does alien planets very well, so it's no shade towards that, but it's either that, Undertown, or Bellwood. Seeing like another Earth location is distinct enough to be intriguing on its own. And I just think everything clicked the way it should have. It was well paced, well written, and there was a lot of creative uses for the London area. Plus, it sets up the ongoing Ben-Kai relationship, which we'll probably get into more in the later episodes, as well as her becoming the eventual wielder of Excalibur. I just can't find anything wrong with this episode. They really nailed it. And in addition to that, they also nailed the characters. Kai is a lot more three-dimensional than I gave her credit for. She has a lot of quirks that make her work as a standalone character. I even think she can hold a story on her own outside of Ben. But she also has a lot of different ways that she can complement Ben, both through positive and negative traits. But even with the negative ways they interact, it still makes good characterization. Wes surprised me a lot with how interesting they made him in such a short amount of time, and Rook having a fascination with London is a breath of fresh air for his character too. And I think this is probably the Forever Knights' best episode, maybe across the whole franchise. I don't know, solitary alignment, well, that's also mostly George than the Knights themselves, but like I said, everything is just clicking. We're really firing on all cylinders here. Visuals is a 5. I've gushed about them already. Awesome drawings, awesome choreography, awesome character designs. Everything looked great, and I get it, I hear it, but please just keep hearing me out. This is a 5 in importance too, because of where everything leads into the future. Kai's presence here, you really do need this first reconnection over the series in order for everything to pay off in the finale. And that alone, I think, is enough for a 5, but also it's just a fun romp. We get a return of Blitzwolfer. We get the final send-off to the Knights, even though they do have that teaser at the ending. This really was their big finale. But for entertaining, I have to be real, I can't keep the hype train going. Like I'm always saying, these ratings are based on the entire community, not just my own feelings, and I understand that all of this still isn't enough for some people to see past Kai and the disliking of her storyline. Plus the Knights, a lot of people don't like the Knights either. I'm only going to give entertaining a 3. I think if you set aside your impulsive disdains, you could really have a good time with this episode. But for a lot of people, that simply doesn't cut it. But we're gonna finish this off with a 23 out of 25. Let's check out the final thoughts. So this sword got me thinking, is this similar to the Mayan sword where it's more about the legacy of the sword, all the legendary users of it, or is the sword really that powerful? I think it's more about the user rather than the tool, versus Ascalon where it really is the tool. This is also the first time Rook has willingly offered his proto-tool to somebody else.
Magister Green!
I really wish I spent more time focusing on Rook and Wes Green. I mean, there wasn't really much more that I could say that I didn't already, but they were such a surprisingly appealing dynamic. I really wish we got to build on that more. And while I was speeding through the intro, it is notable that Rook does specifically bring up New York when comparing it to London.
The average annual precipitation in London is half the average annual rainfall in New York City.
Almost as if New York is significant to them, like where Bellwood might be located. Anyways, let's go over the last batch of polls. With all of the Vilgax fake outs, 65% of y'all voted for Myax. And yeah, she is the cooler character out of the 3, but right now my heart belongs to Bill. He plans to be a rock star, the master of the keytar. Go see his band playing Friday night. As for Siphon's allegiance, I kinda knew that most people would vote for his allegiance being to Vilgax, but it wasn't as big of a margin as I expected, as 34% of people did believe he'd still be happy with a life of crime outside of Vilgax. Perhaps because he already tried at the start of Omniverse with his gang, but as he put it himself, it's not really going anywhere. For Vilgax's favorite underlings, the robot army came out on top, but it's crazy that 2% of y'all actually did vote for the squid monsters. I mean, no shade towards you, I'm just surprised that even got a vote in general. I don't think I've ever done a poll where there's flat out been 0% of people voting for something, but you never know. And lastly, I know a nice balance is ideal, but most people do prefer story arcs of Ben 10 rather than standalone episodes. To be clear, this wasn't asking if Ben 10 should be solely one or the other, it's just which one do you think Ben 10 excels at? This one maybe could have been worded a little bit more elaborately. I just hesitate making the question super long. And yeah, I do think Ben 10 excels at story arcs more than standalone episodes, but without standalone episodes, we wouldn't get fun stuff like Dr. Animo and the Mutant Ray and Ben again. Let's close things off with a new round of polls. For one, did you know who Wolf Blitzer was before this episode? I'm genuinely curious. Number 2, why do you think Kai was such a controversial character? Is it who she is as a person? Is it because her future is fixed with Ben? Is it because they have no chemistry? Or were you one of the people that actually liked her from the start? 3, was this a good final send-off episode for the Forever Knights? I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and as always, keep it fizzy.
Together, even if we tried, we'd be stuck here forever. I don't understand right now.
Special thanks to Andrew Analik in the ink cartridge tier, and Elizabeth Susan in the ink barrel tier. Your contributions greatly help out our projects, and we hope you continue to enjoy our content. Thanks again.